ISB is trying to connect the dots between your present and your future, right? So if you're able to portray why you want to do an MBA, particularly from ISB, and how that will help you in your career goals, that really helps them convince that, okay, you're serious about the school and you should really aim for a higher score, right? So as you've also said, so 710 is the average GMAT score for ISB, but it does not guarantee an admission.
So let's really formally invite Rishabh. What this has been an extraordinary journey, and what he wrote here, and so on and so forth. Hey, I would like to hear, and this is the admission letter as well. And then he spoke to some of my teammates, to me, and so many things. And it's all in front of you, whatever he shared. So, Rishabh, over to you. And I would like you to share your entire journey from the time you thought about the exam, or thought about even not the exam, that, okay, I would like to go for YLP or something, how you started the whole journey, how you started your research, what was on your mind, the entire thing. And you wrote that it was a very tough 1 year for you. So
Right.
whatever that was, I mean, I was really, and obviously MBA prep is not an easy journey, as you can see, and it would really was a tough journey, as he said. So please take me chronologically through the entire journey, right from the select. You may have seen what points we were supposed to cover in the email also. Please go ahead.
So I wouldn't say it's been a tough year. I would say it's been a tough 2 years. So I initially started my MBA journey in 2022 when I decided to write the CAT, which I think every other Indian does. And so I started preparing for CAT. I worked a lot, I worked hard, but ultimately I did not get a good percentile. I got a very bad percentile actually. I got around 91, which for a general candidate in India does not guarantee any admission in any top colleges. And I did not get a call from any of the top IIMs or any of the top B schools of the country either. So I was very disappointed. I remember in December, I was just going through my scorecard. I was seeing कि यार मैंने एक साल पढ़ाई करी for this. Like, what am I going to do now? And I remember just scrolling through LinkedIn, seeing so many people posting their 99 percentiles, 99, 99.8 and everything. And I saw one of your posts. I think it was about Harshad, who had gotten into Wharton. And that is when I got introduced to the idea of deferred admissions. I did not know about them before that. So I think that is one regret that I have, that I did not get exposed to deferred admissions earlier in my life, because I think deferred admissions are probably one of the best ways of getting an admit into your dream business school, because it allows you to experiment so much, right? It allows you to have such a good safety net. Even with ISB, now that I have this admit, and as you said, I'm still preparing for the GMAT, so I'll try for other schools as well. But just having the safety net is an incredible thing to have, and you can experiment with your work kicks in the coming years as well. But right, so coming back to your LinkedIn post that I saw of Harshad, then I so I got introduced to the idea of deferred admissions. I researched on them. I saw your course, and just when I went through your testimonials, I went through a lot of videos on your channel, and I just made the decision in a second that, okay, this is the test prep company I'm going to go for my GMAT prep. And I joined you in January. I joined you on January 4th, I remember. I did not initially start my GMAT prep right away because I was also managing my college placements. There were a lot of things happening in my last semester of college, so I was not able to give it enough time. I started preparing for GMAT actually in my, I think, second last week of college, which was like April. So just a month before my end semester exams. And I wanted to get done with my GMAT before my end semester exams. So I only gave it about a month or like 3 weeks particularly, and ended up getting a very average score. I got a 710. So had I studied more or had I given it more time, had I not been in a rush, I would have definitely gotten a better score, which is what I'm trying for now. But I got a 710 at that point, and so one thing I'd like to point out here is that you should really aim for a higher score, right? So as you've also said, so 710 is the average GMAT score for ISB, but it does not guarantee an admission. And for honestly, any score does not guarantee an admission, but the higher you score, the better your chances are. So at 710, for 8 months, right? I was completely lost. I did not think I would get through. So I was completely depressed. I did not have any hopes that I would get through. But with all three, sir, I was able to write a very good application. I think that is what set me apart. Particularly my stage two essay, which we wrote together. I think that really set me apart because that really came up in my interview as well. Then that really made me offset my average GMAT score. But I think from the get-go, you should really aim for a higher GMAT score because that really makes you confidence in you, makes you confident in yourself also that okay, if I have this score, I have a good chance of getting through. But coming back, sir, so after I wrote my GMAT, that's when I applied for the stage one ISB YLP application. And after I got through to stage two, then that's when I contacted authority, sir. And then we worked on the application together. We wrote the essay, we wrote my resume, and I got the interview invite. And yeah, it's been so after I talked to authors, it was a very smooth journey after that because I was really confused about what to write in my essay, particularly in my stage two, because it's a very
Rishabh,
ISB
also, can
expects a
you
lot of
just
clarity from
elaborate
you.
for people who are applying out of college right now, who are still in
Mhm.
college? What exactly is asked in the essays? What do they have to be? I mean, let's make it
Right,
centric. Obviously, it is you centric, but what can they do right from now?
right.
If they're, let's say, in second year of college or third year
Mhm.
or whatever. So, what should be done? Let's say, what internships they can do? How can they make their resume look better? Just give an idea, please.
So I think the best part about YLP is, or about any deferred program, is that
Mm.
you don't have work experience to show for it. So you can do other things in your college to make your application look better. For
Mm.
example, as you said, you can do internships. So I had a lot of internships. I had 4 internships in Big Fours, which I think really helped me.
Right.
Secondly, I had a lot of extracurriculars as well. I was involved in a lot of societies in my college. And these are broadly the two things you can do in your college, right? You can either go for internships or you can go for societies. You can also go for competitions as well, which really enhances your profile. So I think these two, three things, if you really ace even one of them, I think it gives a good spike to your profile. But being above average in all of them is also helps. Also, having good academics is also a big like it's an I would say having good academics is an easy way of setting yourself apart. Because honestly, getting a good GPA in college is not that difficult, but it really elevates your profile in a way. So I think focusing on these three, four things really helps you, put yourself apart. But coming back to the essay, so the stage one essay, I think for me, it was about your passions and your aspirations in life. So ISB just wants you to introspect, like it wants you to go back in your life. It wants you to see what you've done in your life and how you've got to the moment that you're writing your essay in, right? So it wants you to go back to your college. It wants you to go back to your childhood and see what all things that you did which led you to this path and how your path is going to look like in the future. So it involves a lot of introspection, it involves connecting the dots, and it just involves a lot of reflection. So just sitting down and focusing on what you've done till now and what you want to do ahead in the future is what really matters to ISB. But again, in your college, all you can do is focus on internships, focus on societies, focus on competitions, and focusing on grades. These four things, if you're able to ace them, I think your profile is going to be incredibly strong.
Great, great to hear. And apart from that, let's say when you wrote your applications, after, I mean, obviously it's a
Hmm.
lot of work, the entire thing. What was your exact experience of writing? Because that is the challenge. They'll anyway,
Hmm.
GMAT is one thing that they'll have to do. So I don't want to dwell too much on it because
Right.
obviously that is obviously stage one. I mean, the very first thing is
Ha,
the
ha.
GMAT, but after that, so let's say your essay experience, your recommendations, where you got them from, how did you prepare a resume, and once you got an interview, how did you prepare and how
Hmm.
your interview was, and what everybody can do from now. Let's say to understand that. Yeah.
So the interesting aspect about YLP is that you don't require a GMAT in your stage one. So
Right.
YLP is divided into three stages. The first stage is a very simple stage. You just require one essay, which again I talked about was the passion essay. You're required to submit your awards and achievements in your college or your school life, and you're required to submit your transcripts, as you said, your mark sheets. So the stage one application is quite simple, and I would recommend to every college student sitting here just apply for stage one right now because it does not take any effort, to be very honest. It's a very simple application. Once you make it through stage one, once you clear stage one, in stage two, you're required to submit your GMAT. And that is in August. So you have a lot of time in between to prepare for your GMAT, take 2 or 3 attempts, get a good score, and then apply. But right, coming back to the essay, sir. So my experience for writing the stage one essay was quite easy. Honestly, I did not spend too much time on it either because again, I knew that this stage is not that important. What matters is the stage two. YLP application, because
Right.
it requires you to submit your GMAT, it requires you to submit your recommendations, it requires you to submit your resume, and finally the most important essay. So for the recommendation letter, sir, I got it from my professor, and I think this is what people should look for when they're in college, when they're applying to YLP, because it's easy to get a good bonding with one of your professors, right? And once you get that, they can write you a very good LOR. So my professor was my convener of my society, which I was the vice president of. So she wrote me a very good LOR, and the essay is what we focused on the most with author, sir. The essay talked about your career aspirations. It was about your long-term goals. I think with ISB, what matters is to them to see if you'll be able to contribute to the cohort, firstly, how you'll be able to contribute to the cohort, and if you'll be employable or not, right, after ISP. So I think that is what they look for in the essay as well. If you're able to if you're able to portray those qualities that, okay, look, I have done all of this, I have these aspirations, and this is how I'll be able to contribute to the cohort. I think that really helps them determine if you're going to be a good fit or not. So coming back to how we got about writing it, I think I showed sir a couple of drafts. Then we got on a lot of calls. We exchanged a lot of emails. He made a lot of edits, and I made a lot of edits. So it was a back and forth process. It was a very long process. I think we took around 2 or 3 weeks, and it was just constant going back and forth, going back and forth. I think we had like 12 or 13 drafts, to be very honest. So, and I remember how different, like how monumentally different the the final essay that I submitted was from the first draft that I wrote. So I
Right.
think just fine tuning of the sentences, fine tuning of the words really helps you completely transform your essay, even if the initial story remains the same. I think this becomes very important. So yeah, that was how we went about writing the essay. The LOR I got from my professor, and the resume also I made with authors only, and that also involved a lot of fine tuning. And yeah, so this was essentially the process.
Also, take us through the mock interview process and how different is it to the real interview. That also, please take us through.
Right. So Audrey sir sent me a very comprehensive email covering all of the questions that could be asked in the interview. And ultimately, that is what happened in my interview as well. I got some very basic questions. Why MBA? Why ISB? And for YLP students particularly, I think the why MBA question becomes very important, right? Because ISB is trying to connect the dots between your present and your future, right? So if you're able to portray why you want to do an MBA, particularly from ISB, and how that will help you in your career goals, that really helps them convince that, okay, you're serious about the school and your career aspirations line with the school's overall goals as well. So I think the questions that authors sent me in that email, I just went through all of them. I made my answers for them, and that is what I got asked in the interview. So there were no surprises as such in the interview. So yeah, I just went through those questions. But I would say this, that in ISB interviews or in any B school interviews for that matter, the trajectory of the interview really matters on what you're saying, what you're giving them, right? So the first question that I got asked was, tell me something that is not in your application, right? And I had prepared a very interesting answer about this. So I collect cards, right? I'm a magician. So I told them about this, and then the conversation about that went on for 15 minutes. Just
Wow.
because the other guy, the panelist, was also into magic. He used to follow some American magicians. So we talked a lot about that. So I think it really matters what you're feeding them, because that is how the trajectory takes place. That is how the interview process goes forward. But yeah, I think just having a broad overview of all of the basic questions, being prepared for all of the basic questions, really is
Mhm.
enough to ace the IELTS interview.
So, to everyone listening in, I'll also say we have had students who tell us in the feedback, particularly, that you can actually take the interview wherever you want. If you get some small window, also, one sentence can actually make them talk about your journey in your.
Yeah,
Genuinely, it happens. So take care of this. Rishabh, one
exactly.
more thing here. Yeah, very nice
Hmm,
point that you raised, that you can decide the trajectory. So the other
exactly.
thing I want to ask is there any anxiety or nervousness when you go for an interview? Because obviously there can be. This is there with the GMAT, with everything, but particularly because on in that moment you can't salvage it. So what did you do, if there was
Huh.
any? Let me just ask you, because you're very good at
So
articulating
honestly, right.
communication and very concisely putting your points across. Still, I mean,
Right.
because of the occasion's magnitude, can it really get to you sometimes? Just tell me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I would say the moment I stepped out of my car and I walked into the hotel, I was probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life. But the moment I sat in the waiting room and I saw a lot of people, that's when I got into my element. So I really like to talk to people. I'm a very extroverted personality. So I just saw a lot of candidates sitting there. I knew a lot of them from LinkedIn and from in past internships as well. So I saw a lot of familiar faces. I started talking to them. So once into these fellow candidates and I was in the waiting room, that's when I felt at ease. So I think just probably doing something that really puts you at ease, for me, it's talking to people. It's something that you can do to really calm your nerves down. So for some people, it can be
Everybody is
listening to
nervous. So the
music.
point is not
Yeah,
you are the only person. I think it helps.
exactly. Everyone gets nervous. That's very natural. As you said, the magnitude of the occasion is so high because you're thinking, okay, अगर मैंने ये interview mess up कर दिया एक साल और. So it's like all of these thoughts are going inside of your head. And for me also, I was coming back from all of the cat trauma and all of the trauma of 2022, 2023. So I was just like, yeah, I just have to do this one thing. अगर ये हो गया, then I'll be sorted, right?
Also,
So
Rishabh,
yeah, I was just,
yeah, yeah. So sorry, I thought you'd finished. How long
no,
is
so I was just saying that I just started talking to people, which really puts me at ease. So just anything that puts you at ease. For some people, it can be listening to music, it can be doing whatever, right? So yeah.
and how long is the interview? Usually, is there a particular length, or everybody's interview is different length? I mean,
So it differs a lot. So it differs a lot from people to people. One of my friends had an interview which lasted around 1.5 hours. It was
oh,
very, it was very surprising, and he did not end up making it through, unfortunately. So that
oh,
is one important point. The length of the interview does not guarantee if you're doing good or not. Personally, I
right.
had a 20-minute long interview. So I think the average is
15
around
minutes you
25
talk
to
about
30.
magic in that.
Yeah, so it was just 10-15 minutes about magic and just two questions they asked me after that. Why ISB, why NBA? So it was a very basic interview for me. But yeah, so
Right.
around 20 to 25 to 30 minutes for an average interview. But there can be some exceptions as well.
Right. Autry, did you have anything? I mean, do you have something else to add in this? What people should be aware of? Because you've been guiding people going to right from a Harvard Wharton to ISB, IIMs, like everything in the chain. So, three or four things that should they start early? What kind of score they should look at? And what should be the general direction? Can you just give an idea, please? Yeah.
Sure, sure. As an interesting aside, I'm just getting messages from around 15 to 20 of our students. They're getting interview calls from next weekend for ISB. ISB just released their 20th and
Round two.
21st interview calls. So they literally are messaging me now as we speak. I think firstly, Rishabh spoke really well. I think he has summarized everything really well. I tell students that it has to be a seamless kind of connecting all the dots. It's like almost like I look at my own role as a kind of a defense attorney. I tell my students, imagine you're defending yourself in a criminal case or something like that. You don't want any hole anywhere. You know what I mean by a hole, right? I mean, you don't want a low GMAT score. If you feel you have a low CGPA or something like that, ensure that you're working on your GMAT. You're getting a high score. I will repeat what Rishabh said, work on those extracurriculars, internships. I don't believe that you should do anything purely for your applications. I don't know I don't know if that's the right way of doing it. And Rishabh, back me on this, hopefully.
Yes,
I
sir,
don't think you did
absolutely.
anything because you were thinking of getting, I mean, I'm sure ISB was a dream. You said you were taking the
Yeah,
CAT. So obviously you wanted to go to business school at some point, but
yeah,
the point was you still went ahead and you did those internships and you did those extracurriculars because you were passionate about it. You wanted to
yeah,
excel.
absolutely.
And that's what all top business schools are looking for. For me, there is one thing, students often ask me, Autry, is there anything specific about this business school that I should talk about? And I don't really buy that. I don't really think there is anything that Harvard is looking for that an ISB isn't. Do you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
schools are obviously different. The way they gauge students are different, but the kind of criteria they are assessing you by, I think that metric remains the same. They're going to look at whether you've excelled in your life, whether that's at the workplace, in your college, in your extracurriculars, and you should try to do that. And if you consistently have done that, then it becomes very easy for yourself or for a consultant or anyone to guide you in the process, because then you've given yourself enough dots to connect.
Absolutely.
And Rishabh, like you mentioned, I really like how you said that. I think the essays are crucial, right? I mean, the
yeah,
essay, your resume, your recommendation letter, this is really crucial. given that you have all those data points, if you then connect them really well on your essay, on your resume, then the interview becomes a breeze, because you have then preempted what they're going to talk about, because they're going to pick up on those same things. I mean, I tell my students, ultimately every business school is also business, and you are the customer. They need you. If you stop going to them, their business will shut down, right? So I know it's pretty perverse, because we have all these students here, and today, we look at ISB. I mean, I have students where they're messaging me who are working with me currently for round 3 admission application, which is in weeks time, and they're attending this session. And today, if we turn around the books, and Rishabh, you're obviously on the other side of the table now, you've got an admit. My point is, we big ourselves up so much, right? ISB want to get in. But the truth is, if you break it down to a sort of a more granular level, they need you actually, right now it seems the other way around, right? Otherwise it feels like, oh my God, I'll do anything if they give my kidney if ISB gives me an admit. But the truth is, these guys actually need you. So I tell my students, have that confidence, whether it's when you write your essay, whether you go for the interview, go with that. I mean, obviously don't have a chip on the shoulder, don't be arrogant, but be that humble, nice person. But ISB panel, they're trying their best. They're getting alumni. They try to match their alumni in their interviews. They try to find people with similar interests. So that magic, for instance, it's probably not by chance that happened. Obviously, it probably wasn't in your application, Rishabh, but they do try their best to match people to interview who have common interests. And
wow, I did not know this, by the way. Okay. That's
they do that.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I'm not much informed on ISB particularly, because
but
Sandeep, not for any reason, I'm more on the test prep side, but still. All right.
But I can tell you that all the universities, even when they do alumni interviews, or even with panel, let's say a Columbia or even a HBS or whatever, when they do their alumni matching, they try their best to be from a family business background, for instance. They're going to try to pick someone who also comes from a family business, not only because of shared interests, but also because it's very easy for that person to scrutinize the other and see, if this person is all what he seems, right? Because they are probably in the same ecosystem. So they try their best. My point being that, Sandeep, you're asking me what do students here can do. I think just excel, do well in your life. Don't take the shortcuts. I love every message that you send out, because I think that 99 percentile is a lifestyle. It's something that you choose to live, believe in. And I think if you do it, it then goes into the books you read, the people you associate yourself with, the conversations that you have, and obviously some hard numbers, right? Get your GMAT score, do well. I mean, if you're looking for let's say the regular MBA, ensure that you're doing well in your career. I don't know what else to say, but then give yourself enough time so that you have those dots and you can connect them.
Superb, Audrey. Superb, exceptional insights. Thank you. And Rishabh, thanks for your time as well. Please